Hello, everyone. This is round 2 of presentation 3 for today. This will be a practice run for an asynchronous CEU modules that are going to be filmed in the near future. My wants here are to get through these presentations, see what the timing's like, feel of how the materials is presented. I welcome your feedback at the end. Feel free to post questions or comments related to the topics covered in this presentation in the comments below. Please remember that these slides are prepared for professional pesticide applicators, thus not all things covered will necessarily fit your life. These materials are based off the National Pesticide Applicator Certification Core Manual. The page numbers you will see during the presentations refer to that manual. If you're interested in more information, go get a copy of that manual and you can get more information. If you would like a copy of the manual, go to the USU PSEP Facebook page and you will find a link to a free downloadable copy. Our topic for this chapter is pesticide labeling. It is a federal and state requirement that pesticide users read and follow all label directions. That includes not only the label itself, but any additional brochures or leaflets referenced on the label or received from the manufacturer. The label and all of its pieces provide instructions to protect human health and the environment and achieve effective pest management. Signal words appear on all pesticide labels. The signal word on a product label indicates its acute toxicity to humans and animals. It's the wake up and pay attention hazard statement that's on the label. Also, all professionally used pesticides have signal words. Almost all professionally used pesticides have signal words. Only those products with very low toxicities are exempt from requiring a signal word on the labels. However, all labels include the statement, "Keep out of the reach of children." There are 4 signal words: danger, poison, danger alone, warning, and caution. The signal word danger, poison, or peligro with a skull and crossbones indicate that the product is highly toxic by any route of entry into the body and toxic at a very low dose. The danger poison signal word indicates that this product can kill you when you are exposed to even just a low dose. Note the skull and crossbones. Several insecticides, fumigants, and rodenticides carry the danger poison peligro signal word. You can see the danger poison word is listed in red with skull and crossbones, and the signal word appears in prominent place on the label so that users can quickly assess the relative acute toxicity of the product. Note the product is also a restricted use product. The danger signal word indicates an acute effect at low doses. However, these products won't necessarily kill you, but they are extremely damaging physically at low doses. Whereas danger poison means deadly, the signal word danger alone lets you know that severe injury like irreversible eye damage or severe burns can occur when exposed to low doses. Several herbicides, also carry this signal word. Make certain to read the precautionary statements when a pesticide product has the danger peligro signal word. The precautionary statements provide additional information to the user about the hazards of the pesticide, such as severe eye damage or skin irritation. The other 2 signal words are warning and caution. Warning or adviso indicate that the pesticide product is moderately toxic by any route of entry, or that it can cause moderate eye or skin irritation. The caution signal word is reserved for products of low toxicity. The warning signal word is shown in the first part of the pesticide product label along with the statement, "Keep out of the reach of children." Sections on the label entitled First Aid or Statement of Practical Treatment, which we'll talk about here in a minute, give the user additional information on first aid procedures to perform if an exposure occurs. The signal word caution may have the Spanish word precaución included. Again, caution indicates low toxicity products. In addition to the signal word, the precautionary statements provide important information to the product to protect the pesticide user. These are especially important with the warning label products, since the concern is not evident by the signal word alone. Precautionary statements indicate potential acute effects from exposure, like may be fatal if swallowed. They may provide precautions to reduce your risk, like avoid contact with skin or clothing. In addition, the precautionary statements often list specific personal protective equipment for reducing exposures. Always read the precautionary statements prior to mixing, loading, and applying pesticide. The hazards to human and domestic animals and the steps to minimize exposure are outlined there. This label section includes the required personal protective equipment, or PPE, that is required when mixing and loading, or those requirements when applying the pesticide. In this example, the mixer and loader must wear long sleeve shirt and long pants, or coveralls worn over long sleeve shirts and shorts or long pants, chemical resistant gloves, shoes plus socks, protective eyewear, and a chemical resistant apron. Note, the applicator does not have the same level of protection requirements since the product has already been diluted in the tank. Read the specific action statements carefully. Many products have more than one hazard. The specific action statement identifies the hazard and the action to minimize the potential of the hazard. For example, this product causes irreversible eye damage, is identified as the hazard. The user must wear goggles and a face shield when handling, is stating the protection action that can be taken. This example lists several other hazards and protective actions that can be taken. I want to emphasize how important this section is for assisting the applicator in understanding the specific hazards the product poses. It is required that all users wear all personal protective equipment listed on the pesticide label. Again, mixing and loading requires the greatest level of protection and the most PPE, since you're exposed to the most highly concentrated form of the pesticide. As noted a minute ago, people who make applications may not be required to wear the same level of PPE as the mixer loader. If a label does not specify the personal protective equipment to wear, at a minimum, wear long sleeve shirts, long pants, shoes and socks, and chemical resistant gloves to reduce your exposure. Pesticide labels may outline other precautions, such as this example that notes possible allergic reactions might occur following prolonged repeated skin contact. These precautions may include common sense considerations when using any pesticide, such as remove and wash contaminated clothing. The statement of practical treatment section on the label describes the first aid treatment to perform if an exposure incident occurs. Specific first aid treatment are given based on what part of the body was exposed, and they typically list normal routes of exposure like eyes, oral, inhalation, or skin. If a person has been exposed and there is concern due to the exposure, give emergency first aid treatment immediately. Take the victim to a doctor. Take the pesticide label also. It's a good idea to have a prepared copy of labels you work with in a notebook in case of an accident. This notebook should be labels that are the products you use, but not the labels you refer to during your day-to-day work, because referring to labels during day-to-day work will contaminate those labels, and you want to give the doctors a clean one to refer to. Labels have very important information that the physician needs to treat the exposed person. It may include specific medical treatment or even an antidote. The next section of the label addresses environmental concerns. Pesticide products may pose certain hazards to bees, birds, invertebrates, wildlife, or water. The environmental hazard statements specifically specify the hazards and products posed to an animal like aquatic organisms, bees, waterfowls, etc. Read this section of the label to assess any concerns that can occur from applying the product. Always use extreme care to protect the environment when applying a pesticide. Almost every label lists basic precautions about protecting water sources. Other labels may have very specific concerns in this section. There is a section on all labels for agricultural products that require compliance with the Worker Protection Standard. The Worker Protection Standard, or WPS, is a federal law that has specific requirements for training, notification, emergency assistance, and personal protective equipment for agricultural employees. Pesticide products that are labeled for agricultural application are required to have an agricultural use requirement statement on the label directing users to comply with the Worker Protection Standard. This ag use requirement section also lists restricted entry intervals. The restricted entry interval, or REI, is the time that must pass between an application and the re-entry of unprotected workers. Under the Federal Worker Protection Standards, no one can enter a treated field for the first 4 hours after the application. During the remainder of the REI, early entry workers wear the required PPE, which can be found in the agricultural use requirements field. Many labels used in non-agricultural disciplines do not have restricted entry intervals, so the rule of thumb is to restrict entry to unprotected people until after the spray has dried or the dust has settled. The agricultural use statement is in a box on the label. It instructs the user to comply with all requirements of the Worker Protection Standard, including training of employees, decontamination, application notification, emergency assistance, and minimum restricted entry intervals and personal protective equipment. Again, this section lists the REI and PPE requirements for early entry workers. Some product labels have both an agricultural use requirement box and another box titled non-agricultural use requirements. This area of the label has special restrictions and safety precautions for the non-agricultural user. Make sure you are in compliance with this section if it applies to your application. All labels have a storage and disposal section. This section lists special concerns with storage. Some products become unusable if they overheat or freeze, so labels list storage temperatures. Disposal language also reminds the applicator that waste must be handled carefully and according to state regulations. The label also reminds applicators that to triple rinse empty pesticide containers. The directions for use section of the pesticide label instructs the applicator on how to use the product. Generally, it includes information on the crop or the site where the pesticide can be applied, the target pest, product rate, how to mix and apply the product, potential phytotoxicity or other precautions, and how to manage drift when applying a pesticide. Safety data sheets stand alone from the label, but the safety data sheets, or SDS, formerly referred to as material safety data sheets, are provided by the manufacturer for all pesticide products, and they provide detailed safety information. You can get them from your dealer or from an online database. The products The product safety data sheet details the composition, properties, hazards, and first aid procedures for the pesticide. They are written for people who manufacture pesticides, but can also provide useful safety information, first aid, and other information. Federal and state worker right to know laws require that material safety data sheets be kept in a central location where all employees who might come in contact with the pesticide have access to them. Pardon me. The safety data sheet includes information about the pesticide's active and inert ingredients, physical, fire, and explosion data, toxicology, and PPE. It provides greater detail when compared to the label. However, the label provides all the basic precautions and information needed for handling the product. The pesticide applicator should become familiar with the information on safety data sheets. Safety data sheets typically follow the same format across all manufacturers, making finding the information relatively easy. All right, that's it for our label talk. Again, feel free to leave comments or questions below, and I will do my best to get back to you about it.